Morale is a very, very important part of managing a team. I used to work in a large call center where we had maybe 100 or so agents who were all commission based. And with good morale, you could see closing rates increase as much as 5 points. Not increasing closing from 30 to 30, just 5% higher, like 30.015, but from 30 to 35%. That's why we would always bring in lunch. We would have a great vacation policy. We would try to keep the floor happy always, because when people are happy at work, they're better at work. This is just a fact. With everything going on at Activision Blizzard, with the large-scale layoffs, and on top of that, I think the shakeup going on their eSports department, morale was bound to take a hit. This is something that people talk about all the time when they're talking about specifically developers who get, put in these situations where they're burning the candle at both ends, and they're getting yelled at and they're getting worn down, and obviously then morale suffers, and even though the beatings continue. Richard Lewis published a good story here on source. More high-profile Blizzard staff set to leave amid morale problems. Look, work is called work because it's work. I know that you subscribe and you like my videos like you're doing right now for those deep thoughts, but it's sometimes the truest things are worth saying out loud just to remind yourself. So let's just have informed decks or two. I'm always never. Oh God, I need to just reach out to Richard and ask him how to say the name. That several high-profile and experienced staff are set to leave Activision Blizzard over the next 2 weeks. Some of them will be Kim Fan, the global product director of Blizzard eSports, someone who has been with the company over 13 years. The news comes just a week after Nate Nanzer, the Overwatch League's commissioner, announced that he would be leaving to work for rival company Epic Games, likely presiding over their 2 esports titles, Fortnite Battle Royale and newly acquired Rocket League. Now, I think that obviously part of the struggle with Blizzard esports, there's only so much that you can do inside that department. If the game that you're promoting, and in this case will be Overwatch, isn't exciting anymore, or people don't want to watch it, it makes your job very, very difficult. When Overwatch was new and still really popular, not that it's not popular still, but you get what I'm saying. When Hearthstone was still really popular, it probably made life a lot easier. Things that you tried, you didn't have to try as hard to succeed because the market was just gobbling up everything. Now that there's more competition out there, you've got to work harder, and that can be disillusioning for some people. Now, some people will strap their boots on, tighten their belts, get to work, and other people will abandon ship. I'm not saying that's what she's doing, but I'm saying I would understand that perhaps the trying times isn't for everybody. The news continues a trend of negative headlines for Activision Blizzard, including hundreds of layoffs being made despite the company's latest shareholder meeting announcing a record revenue year. They were also criticized for treating their customers with contempt during the disastrous announcement of Diablo Mobile, and where developers shy to the crowd with comments such as, "Do you not have phones?" That will go down to infamy. I don't know if there will ever be a more hilarious statement made by a game dev. I'm trying to think of a similar boner, but I can't think of one. Sources internal to Blizzard confirmed that the reason for the latest round of departures as being linked to low morale, especially surrounding the development of esports divisions of their games. People are getting really tired of working for Peter Pete. One source said the sources have become commercializing the esports titles instead of making good programs for the community. Oh, well, imagine that. Many people internally are laying that on Pete. I'm sorry. Yes, they're laying that on Pete, worrying about money. And it has crushed morale among the Call of Duty and Overwatch teams, especially. He's the president and CEO of Activision Blizzard Esports, who joined the company in 2016 from Fox. His previous role at Fox, he oversaw the digital output and content creation. Some people at Blizzard feel that doesn't necessarily equip him to make decisions about what's best for esports due to the noted differences between the markets. This is something we talked about yesterday, I think, with GameStop. By the way, GameStop, you should probably be selling vape, like gamer branded vape juice and jewels and gamer skin vape products. I bet you that would do well for your stores. I was thinking about that last night on live stream. But uh, they hired like somebody from a tile company, or they hired some boomers from companies that aren't going to be around in 5 years to try and save their company that's not going to be around in 5 years. And there's a lot of validity to that. Certainly, when you're at a high level, there are certain things that are the same. Like, for example, I run a search marketing agency. That's what I do for a day job. I run paid search ads on Google and Bing specifically, as well as Gemini too. And it doesn't really matter if I'm selling toilet paper or television service or fishing lures. There's lots, big part of my day is the same no matter what the product is. However, when I truly understand the culture, when I truly understand the people that work at a company and the people that buy the products, for example, I had a fishing lure company. I would normally have never taken a company this small, but they were local. So I was like, hey, I want to work with them. And, I went and toured their factory. I went and used their fishing lures. I talked to people that use their fishing lures. And I think that made me more effective. I know it did. So, yes, having those skills that translate are great, but also understanding the community is even better. It's not clear exactly how many people will be leaving the latest round of internal changes, but there were several names of some experience on the list that was passed to us. While we have chosen to omit those names from the report, the resignation of Fan, whose incredible tenure at the company has made her synonymous with Blizzard eSports for many, stood out as especially newsworthy. We're currently waiting further comment on the story, and we'll bring you updates when they become available. So I don't know what this sounds like to you. I don't know that these are people that are laying off, getting laid off, but sometimes when companies are downsizing, okay, they'll give you an option to take a buyout or be, laid off or potentially laid off. And maybe that's what we're seeing in the esports department here with Blizzard. But, also there's a very real reality that esports isn't what it once was for Blizzard. Hearthstone, I mean, gosh, I don't even think about that anymore. And at one time, it was wildly popular. Now it's kind of been replaced by, I don't know, really what has really fit in there. Magic Arena isn't anywhere near as popular as that ever was. People just moved on. Now, Classic WoW, I think, is doing really well for streaming, but Classic WoW really isn't an esport. I guess you could maybe do PvP. But, I mean, we're talking about Overwatch here. That's what we're talking about for Blizzard, and Heroes of the Storm, which failed. I'm not sure, but I think what we're really seeing here is kind of the backflow of the department expanded and was doing great, probably could do no wrong for several years when Overwatch was really popular and Hearthstone was really popular. Now that their popularities have waned, we're probably seeing a lot of bloat in the department, a lot of disgruntled employees in the department, a lot of resentment, right? Because imagine it was your day job. Well, yeah, I can give you a real world example for me. I have a client, and they change something internally. They change a price point, for example. It makes my job extremely difficult because they're no longer competitive in the marketplace. And then they come to me and say, why aren't we doing as good as we were before? And I say, well, because you raised your price by 30% and you didn't add any additional value. And they say, well, we don't care. Do better. Well, there's only so much that I can control as a marketer if you're going to change your price and things like that. And I think if you translate that to Overwatch, if it's my job to promote esports and I have a suboptimal product or a stagnant product, or I'm losing support for example, Heroes of the Storm, or Hearthstone isn't doing much to rejuvenate the community, there's probably a lot of resentment in there, and that leads to poor morale, which leads to people bailing out on the company. I think that, to be honest with you, Blizzard would do well to ignore esports entirely and just focus on making amazing games. That's just me, but that comes from someone who isn't a huge fan of esports, so I understand. I also understand that the esports community is gihugic, all right? Fortnite, Apex Legends, PUBG, obviously, League of Legends. The names list goes on and on of gigantic games that are really buoyed by their esports competitions and gigantic prize pools and things of this nature. So, I mean, I guess Blizzard probably has to start by making their game better, more interesting to watch. They need to figure out how to get people interested in watching Hearthstone again. They need to figure out why people don't want to stream it. They need to figure out why people don't like to watch it. Because I always thought with Hearthstone, like the truly great minds were playing Magic the Gathering, but the people that wanted to be entertained were watching Hearthstone, which is why Magic Arena came around finally. Way too late, obviously, but Wizards of the Coast was looking at all this money in quote-unquote esports, the esports gold rush, and they realized that Magic the Gathering isn't fun to watch, and so they finally put the money into Arena, but in my opinion, too late, because that craze is over. Now, will Hearthstone make a return? Will Overwatch find a way to get people interested in it? I don't know. I mean, League of Legends has been around for a long time. People still like watching it. PUBG, I mean, Call of Duty, for example, these games have all been around for forever, so could they revitalize? Sure. Will people eventually get sick of Battle Royale and want to come back? Maybe. But in the meantime, I think people are floundering in their esports department. It'll be interesting. I imagine we're going to see some more announcements this coming up week. I'll be interested to see if it's more about a layoff or if it's about people just bailing out. I'm curious what you think. You know, should Blizzard just get back to focusing on making good video games? Or do you think that they can kind of revive their esports community? What, in your opinion, is the big problem with Overwatch? As somebody who doesn't watch it or play it, I'm curious to see why you think the community is kind of bailing out on watching that. Is it about prize pools? Is it about just the community's bored? This will be one where I rely on you in the comment section down below to educate me a little bit. So if you play these games, I'd definitely love to hear from you, or if you're a big esports fan, obviously. But you know, more trouble for Activision Blizzard. I'd be willing to bet that this will be the beginning of a wave of some more changes in esports, and I hope you were at least informed by this video, and if you were, remember to hit that thumbs up button, and we'll talk to you again real soon.